Hi everyone, welcome back for another live class. In this class, I'm going to go over some of the cropping options in the image menu. Historically, we've always talked about what an awesome vector program funtime is. So many people don't realize that there are also a lot of tools in funtime that can be used with your JPEGs, which are raster images. Even though it's a vector program and vector is what it does best, there are also some cool things you can do with your raster images like your JPEGs. And one of those is cropping. If you've ever used Photoshop or Elements or Paint Shop Pro or any type of photo editing program, you should already be familiar with cropping. And I'm going to go over some of the cropping features in funtime for you. So the first thing I'm going to do is bring in one of the JPEGs that I selected earlier. And I'm selecting this JPEG for a specific reason to show you some specific features. In this JPEG, there are three separate elements. These are from Dover Publishing, and these are designs that were intended as patterns for stained glass. I specifically chose this image because it has three different items on it, and that gives me an easy way to show you some of the cropping tools. So before you can use a cropping tool, you have to have a JPEG on the screen, which I did with my import tool. And to access the cropping tools, you'll go to your image menu. And from the image menu, select crop. And when you hover your mouse at crop, you'll have options for rectangle, oval, circle, and personal path. And I'm going to go over each one of these with you and give you a bit of an idea of what you can do with it. The first one I'm going to use is rectangle. And I can choose rectangle just by clicking on it in the list. And then very similar to how you crop an image in your photo programs, you simply hover the mouse on the outside of the area that you want cropped, press and hold the left mouse button, and drag it down and around your image. And it didn't work. I must have held it for too long. Crop rectangle. Try it from the bottom. Oh, there we go. So I drag this rectangle around the portion of the image that I want to crop out. When I release the mouse button, the selection handles are showing me that that new piece is selected, and I can simply click and drag it away from the original image. Now it's important to note that whenever you crop using the rectangle, oval, or circle, you'll get a new image that matches the area you cropped, but your original image is left intact. And I see now why when I tried to crop the first time it didn't work. When your original JPEG is selected, look at these selection handles that go around it and just make a mental note of where those are. And I'll do it again to show you what happened. When you go to image, crop, and select rectangle, oval, or circle, make sure that your mouse is within that imaginary boundary. If I try to crop starting outside of the image, it won't work. So you have to get your mouse pointer completely within where that boundary was. And then it'll work perfectly. Now, I used the rectangle cropping tool to crop this rectangular area, but it's not required to do it that way. I can also use crop rectangle and crop a rectangular area around an oval or a circle or any shape at all. I'll do it again to give you another idea. And I don't have to completely enclose one of these items or only an item. If I want to, I can click, drag, and crop right in the middle of that image. I can crop anywhere in that image that I want to. I'm not restricted in that aspect. The only restriction is that when I click and drag the mouse to create the cropped area, I have to be within the boundaries of the image itself. And you'll know where the boundaries are by selecting the image, and then you'll have the selection handles. I want to check real quick if there are any questions. No questions so far. All right, I'm going to clean up some of what I've got on the screen. Now, so far we've done the rectangle tool. Next, I'm going to do the oval tool, and it works in the exact same manner. Click and drag around the area that you want to crop. Release the mouse and just drag that piece away. And just like I can crop a rectangle around a circular shape, I can crop a rounded shape around a square item. It doesn't matter. So if you just want a certain little section, you can do it no problem. I'll do one more to circle. And notice how my original image is left intact. No changes have been made to it. You can do an entire portion or just a little portion of an image. You have a lot of flexibility with using the crop tool. Checking for questions. No questions yet. So, something I want to show you about these cropped pieces. I've used, notice that when I drag a cropped image, that gray boundary shows me the shape that I've cropped. I'm going to bring in, oops, wrong one. I'm going to bring in a digital paper. So that you can better see what's going on. Notice that the pieces I've cropped using circle, square, or oval, when they're on the white background, I can't see the white background that's on this cropped image, but if I place it over a patterned paper or a colored shape, then I can see exactly where it was cropped because the white background of the JPEG is visible. So this brings up the option of what if I want to crop this oval window, but I don't want that white area, the frame or the mat, so to speak, to show. Well, then I have another option with another tool. And get rid of some of these pieces just to make more room. There's another cropping tool called Personal Path. Personal Path is cropping any closed shape that is on the screen without selecting rectangle, oval, circle, and then clicking and dragging on the image. It works like this. You can use a circle or a square from the tools menu. You can use the freehand tool. You can even pull a shape out of the shapes window. For starters, I'm going to use the oval tool, and I'm just going to click and drag an oval, and I'm going to turn off the fill color, and I'm going to line it up to match this oval that's on the screen as best I can. Bear with me if I don't get it perfect. I'm trying to show you this without taking forever to do it. I'll drag it away. You can see that I've created a vector oval shape, and I'm lining it up over the part of the image that I want to crop. My vector oval is selected, and now I'm going to press and hold the Shift key on my keyboard and click on the JPEG so that both pieces are selected. Alternatively, I can use my selection tool and just click and drag both pieces. Both pieces being the vector shape that I drew and the JPEG image. Once both pieces are selected, go to the image menu, select crop, and this time select personal path. When you select personal path, it'll think for a moment, and then it's going to ask you if you want to include the region in the bitmap. I'm going to show you both options, but first I'm going to show you what happens if you click on no. When you click on no, the selection handles appear, and you'll know that your cropped item is selected, and you can click and drag to drag it away from the original image. And notice the difference. There's just the oval that was cropped. There's no background around it. I'm going to do this again on a different JPEG to show you the other option. And I'll show you each of these with the other image. There are some really neat things that can be done. Check for messages. Okay. Does anybody have any questions so far? Am I going too fast? You can't see it, but I've got my chat window open, so if you have a question or if I'm going too fast, let me know. Okay, so far it doesn't look like there's any questions. This handsome young man on the screen is my next to youngest grandson. He was 14 months at the time, and we were at his cousin's birthday party, and of course Grandma went a little hog wild with the camera. Oh, something's beeping. I got to see what it is. Thank you, Jules. Okay, so I was showing you the cropping tools, and I wanted to show you the difference on personal path of what would happen whether you do or do not include a bitmap in the region. So I'm going to use a simple shape again. Well, I used oval last time, so I'm going to use a heart this time just for special effects because I love this little guy. So I've used the shapes category and selected a little shape. I'm going to bring this picture back down to the page because it's just huge. That's better. Okay, I've selected a heart shape from the shapes menu or the blue book, whatever you want to call it. And I'm going to remove the fill color to make it easier for me to see what's behind it. And very easily, all you need to do is make sure that your shape or your heart in this instance is on the top of the JPEG and position it anywhere you want to on your JPEG. When you've got it positioned where you want to crop the image, press and hold your Shift key and click on the JPEG so that both pieces are selected. And you can check that both pieces are selected just by dragging it. If both pieces move together, then you know both pieces are selected. With both pieces selected, go to your image menu, crop, and personal path. After you select personal path, click one time on the JPEG. You'll get this little pop-up asking you to include region and bitmap. First I'll do no, and then next time I'll do yes to show you a side-by-side comparison. Clicking no, the selection handles appear, and if I drag it over, move some stuff out of the way here, you can see that my photo, or that portion of my photo, has been cropped in the shape of a heart. Now, if I wanted to make a print and cut out of this, all I would need to do is reselect the vector heart and line it up to the cropped heart. And I can do that more precisely with my align tools using the center to each other tool. And now I have my JPEG and my cut line, and I can do a print and cut with that. I can use this to make a print and cut. Now, alternatively, I want to show you what's going to happen if I would have selected yes when it asked me to include bitmap. So I'm going to position my heart where I want it, and show of hands, even though nobody else can see them, how many of you have a large collection of paper punches and you're always punching shapes in photos or papers so that there's a hole in the paper and you can see what's behind it? Well, what I'm going to do now essentially is make my cropping tool into a paper punch. And it works like this. My vector shape is selected. I press and hold Shift and click on the JPEG. I can verify that they're both selected by moving them. They move together, so I know they're both selected. And same thing as before, go to Image, Crop, and select Personal Path. Click on the JPEG. And this time, include region and bitmap. I'm selecting yes. Hit my refresh button. Now watch what happens when I drag. Oh, I have to select first. When I drag the heart away from the image, I've actually punched a hole in the image. And I can show you that there's actually a hole in this image by dragging it over something with color. Oh, I have to move it to the front though. It's behind the other paper. By moving this in front of the other image, you can see that I've actually punched a hole in that JPEG. Can you see that there's a hole punched in it? Check for comments. Way to go, Tammy. Glad you can hear now. Are any questions coming up yet? Okay. Now, I'm going to show you another way that this will come in handy. I'm going to delete these pieces just to get them out of the way. Say, for example, you're creating your own digital papers and you want to have holes in your digital paper. A real easy way to do it would be select your shape or shapes, the vectors that is, and position them wherever you want them. And I'm just being kind of quick and sloppy here for demonstration purposes. Now, if I drag a selection around all of those pieces, go to Image, Crop, Personal Path, click anywhere on the JPEG, and well, first I'll do No to show you. If I click No, I've got all these little cropped hearts that I can do whatever I want to do with them. Alternatively, if I select all of these pieces, go to Image, Crop, Personal Path, click on the JPEG, and select Yes. When I drag this piece away, you can see that I've punched holes in it. See how that works? Any questions so far? What did it do, Trina? You said, okay, that did it, but you didn't tell us what it did. Come on, ladies, there's 9 of us here. I can't be the only one talking. Comments, questions, ideas? You got to have something for me. Trina, I missed the question. What was it? What do you mean the cutie without a heart? Jamie, the punch outs can be used for anything that you want to. You could use them for paper piecings. You could use them for print and cuts. You could use them to create. You can actually do digital scrapbooking in funtime. So I'll move this image over. I lost my page. Okay, let me move some of this stuff over. Just an example. I'll bring in, oops, wrong button. I'll bring in my JPEG of the little cutie pie again. And it's absolutely huge. I'll bring it back down to the page more. And if I wanted to, oh, those are grouped together. I have to ungroup them. Oh, no, they're not. Oh, that is a single JPEG. Oh, that was interesting. I'll have to show you that. I didn't realize it. So I could bring those hearts over and position them here if I wanted to. Okay, I'm checking up on messages real quick. Okay, Jamie says, what would you use the punch outs for? And the answer is you can use them for anything you want. Picture all of those punches and punches you had before you had a digital die cut machine. And you would use your punches to punch shapes from patterned papers, cardstock, photos. What would you use those punched pieces for? You can use these punched pieces for exactly the same thing. Trina, do you understand what Jules told you about selecting one item, hold the shift, and then select the other? Trina, are you good now with using the shift key to select multiple items? Okay, would you like a demonstration of that? Okay. In funtime, there are a lot of different ways to select items. So I'm going to move some items away from each other to show you. For example, if I wanted to select the top left heart and the bottom right heart, it would be very difficult to drag a selection and only get the top left and the bottom right heart. It's virtually impossible. So my next option would be to click directly on the first heart, press and hold the shift key on the keyboard. Don't release it, hold it down, and then click directly on the edge of the next item that you want selected. Now release the shift key, and if I drag away, you can see that only those two items are selected. I can click on this item, press and hold shift, and click the next item, and only those two are selected. And if I press and hold the shift key again, I can click on a third item, and those three items are selected. There's not a limit to how many items you can select that way. Does that make sense, Trina? Good. So where we're leading up to with this, I guess, one of the things is, even though funtime is a high-end vector program, it also has a lot of raster tools in it, raster being your JPEGs. A lot of the things that you might go into Photoshop or Elements or any of your photo editing programs to do, not all, but many of the items or many of the tasks that you do in those programs, you can also do in funtime. Jules, a beginner one of what things? A digi scrap page? Oh, a beginning class for the newbies? We can do that. We just need to set up a time and set up some newbies. Tammy, you want to be first in line for a newbie class? All right, I'm going to hold you to it. There's no backing out. Now, since we're doing things with raster images, Judy reminded me about something that we, excuse me, that we thought you would really get a kick out of. So I'm going to clear my screen. And I should have kept the heart, but I'll go get another one. Suppose you want to do a print and cut with some hearts, but you don't want the hearts to be just plain colors like plain flat pink or plain flat blue. One of the first options you might think of is using the Papers tool in funtime, where by clicking on the paper icon right here, you have a whole selection of papers that you can choose from. Your shape needs to be selected, and when you click on the paper, then you get that paper, and the paper has texture in it. I'll zoom in closer so you can see the textures. Oops. Here's the Swiss dot that everyone loves. That's one of the options you have for changing the papers. And remember, we're not going to go over it in this class, but one of the new features in Gazelle 4 is that you can add your own personal textures and papers to the program. So if you have a collection of, say, digital background papers, you can put those papers into funtime. And you can use those papers just like you do the other textures and papers in funtime. Everybody with me on this one so far? So remember, if you've done digital scrapbooking and you have a collection of digital background papers, you can bring them into your funtime program and add them to your collection of paper textures right in funtime and access them through this feature rather than having to import JPEG every time. There's another way also that you can fill a shape with a JPEG. I'm going to make this shape a little bit bigger so I don't have to keep zooming in. And I'm going to remove the fill color from it so that you can actually see what I'm doing. I've got my vector shape on the screen, and it can be a heart, a diamond, a tag that you would put on a gift, a heart. It can be any shape you want. But what you do now is on the color palette window with your shape selected, click on the gradient tool. After you click on the gradient tool, click on this little arrow to open the menu and click on gradient setting. Once you've clicked on gradient setting, in this little drop down list you have line, rectangle, circle, and image. Select image. Click on the import button and browse your computer to wherever the JPEG is that you want to use. Select it and click on open. And you'll see a preview of it in this window. This mosaic button you can use on or off. I prefer to use it off. And simply click on your OK button. Now click directly within your shape, and voila, there's your little cutie inside the heart shape. Jamie, it's not a full-fledged tutorial, but in the document on the forum that goes over the new features in Gazelle 4, there's a little write-up on adding papers. I'm guessing you meant to the texture window when you click on papers. Is this where you were talking about adding? Real briefly, it's real easy. You click on the papers icon to open this window, and initially you will want to create a new category. So click on the add category button and give it a name. I'll just call it custom papers. You can name it anything you want. Click on OK. Now over here in the list of categories, scroll down and select your new category. Once you've, oh, I missed a step, I'm sorry. Let me back up a little bit. Before you go to add the paper, click on the Import JPEG button and browse your computer. Browse your computer until you have found the paper that you want to add. Select the paper in this window and click on Open. And that'll open the paper on your funtime screen. Make sure that the paper is selected. Open your papers window. Scroll through this list to either select a category or click on Add Category to create a category, but select the category that you want this paper to be put in, and then simply click on Add Texture. Give it a name. I'll just call it Stripes for lack of a better name and being in a hurry, and click on OK. The software will think for a moment. It'll reduce the paper a little bit to a better size, and here you'll see that paper has been added to this category. And you can do that pretty much with as many as you want to. And then in the future, if you want to add that paper to a shape, simply get your shape on the screen, click on the Papers button, and select the particular paper. And there it is. Now here's something that's really cool too. With bringing in your own custom papers, you're probably going to want some stroke colors that match the paper you're bringing in. And you have two options to do that. The first option is to click on the little dropper tool right here. It says color from screen when you hover on it. Click on the dropper, point your mouse directly at the color that you want, and I'll select this rusty color. You can give it a name, but you don't have to. I usually don't. Click on the OK button, and here's that color right here. Now I can right click on that color. No, that was a right click. Darn it. I hit the wrong button. I'm sorry. Okay, put the paper back in it. And then now I have a color that matches the fill on that icon. The other way you can change, we're getting totally off topic, but since we're here, we'll go there. Another option you have for changing colors in your color palette, very easily you can create a custom palette by importing a JPEG, and I'll do my little cutie again because there's a lot of good greens in that from the background that I like. Import your JPEG, and once your JPEG is on the screen, you don't have to resize it, but I'm just doing it to get it down here because it's so big. Once you have your JPEG on the screen and selected, come down here and click on this little rainbow. Watch my color palette colors. Watch these color swatches. I'll bring it down here closer. Watch how these colors change when I click on the rainbow. It'll think for a moment. I'm running low on memory. I've got screen share with the internet. I've got Camtasia, Funtime, all kinds of stuff running. It's thinking. It's going to take it a moment because I'm running low on memory. I apologize. There we go. Now, when you notice that my colors in the color swatch have changed, and I have a huge assortment of colors that have been pulled directly from this particular JPEG. So matching colors and coordinating colors with embellishments would be really easy to do. Any questions? Any ideas? Adding those colors to the palette isn't permanent at this point, but going on to a more advanced feature, you do have the option. If you click on this little arrow to open the utility bar of the color palette, and then click on the little disk icon, it'll open up a window where you can create a custom palette. Give it an interesting name. I'll call this one my Cutie Pie palette because it's after the Cutie Pie picture, and click on Save. Now in the future, If I want to make more embellishments or more pieces to coordinate with this, let me go back to my default or to a different color palette. Oops. Okay. When I want to go back to this color palette, I simply open up the color palette menu, select my cutie pie that I saved, click on open, add the colors to this side, replace palette, and OK. Any questions? Isn't that cool? Okay, we're getting pretty long on time for the screen capture that I'm doing. So I'm going to go ahead and end the screen capture at this point. Give me just one moment.